property in a county a little ways from where I lived, and that's how I acquired my first real estate deal. And it was super exciting, but went to lay eyes on it on the first time and saw that it was a dump. It had a hole in the roof, it had fire at some point, and just that quickly, that excitement kind of turned to horror. But it was just a result of me not doing my due diligence, not having the proper training or coaching. Ended up with a bad deal, bad situation. So kind of got cold feet, backpedaled, and first opportunity I got, went back into, the corporate arena.
So today, I have a very special guest, a guest I'm excited for you guys to meet, and someone I have known now for quite a few months, maybe a year or more. And we'll talk a little bit about how we met a while back. But Christopher's an incredible father and husband, and building his real estate portfolio. And especially for all of you, whether you've been in real estate for a while or just looking to get started, I think you're going to find some incredible nuggets that Christopher gives, some takeaways that he's had on his journey over the last several months. So let's dive in. Mr. Christopher, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, Andrew. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
Good. I'm phenomenal, man. Welcome in. So before we get into real estate and technicals and tacticals, who is Christopher? What do you do? What's your family like? Like, who are you?
Good question. I can honestly say I'm still discovering that myself. But what I do know is, I'm a man after God's own heart. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Christ giving me identity, giving me purpose, giving me passion, and showing me favor in the wife that I found, that we've recently celebrated 11 years of marriage. Of that union, we have 4 beautiful children. My oldest is 8, 6, 3, and now a 9-month-old. So you can imagine we have a noisy, chaotic, but just wonderful home. And so at the same time, I'm an engineer, that via education and my current employment, but definitely an entrepreneur at heart. And that's how I got started in real estate and the opportunity of meeting you.
Heck yeah. So when did you do your first real estate deal?
Back in 2009 was my first deal.
And tell me about that. How'd you get curious to start trying investing in real estate? 17 years ago now.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like it was forced in a sense. It was a feast of famine kind of situation. I had recently lost my job at my original employer in the corporate arena, and just was faced with having to reinvent myself. And so I went to one of these inspirational, motivational, entrepreneur type conventions that was held at the arena in Indianapolis. And so I attended this, and they had different guest speakers. And one of the things that a presenter had spoke about was real estate. So after the convention, I signed up for the program. Some days later, I went to, this seminar, and they were talking about tax liens and how to invest in tax liens. And so this was specifically tax C lien investing or commissioner sales. So after the county has repossessed the property, from a property owner who's been delinquent in taxes, it goes through a series of auctions. And when it gets to the tax lien, then you can bid on the property. Depending on your state or county, there's a redemption period. And so I went through the steps and won a bid, found a property in a county a little ways from where I lived, and that's how I acquired my first real estate deal. And it was super exciting.
That's awesome. What would you say taking me from '09 to when we met. We met in what, 2025, 2024? When did we meet?
It was last year, March, at the Louisville, Kentucky Truca event.
So bringing me up to speed before we get into the last, since March, almost a year now, bring me up to speed '09 to 2025 when we met. Like, what was happening? Was you consistently doing a deal here and there? Did you kind of set it by the wayside? What did that look like?
Well, no, I had did that original deal and two more after that. But this of the three, I acquired that one. Like I said, super excited about getting the property, but went to lay eyes on it on the first time and saw that it was a dump. It had a hole in the roof. It had a fire at some point, and just that quickly, that excitement kind of turned to horror. But it was just a result of me not doing my due diligence, not having the proper training or coaching. And so just cut corners and missteps and ended up with a bad deal, bad situation. So I kind of got cold feet, backpedaled, and first opportunity I got went back into, the corporate arena. But still, had this desire to see, what I could make of a real estate career. So once getting back into corporate, went into education for a little while. But as my family grew and realized I needed some other, streams of income to create some more opportunities for us, I started to look into real estate again in 2024. And so by the time I met you, I had already did some training with some other programs, did a deal that was a wholesale, and learned, so many different strategies that I didn't even know existed. And then attending that Truca event, and hearing you talk about buy, owner financing and sell lease option just really resonated to me because I understood that to be creative financing, something I was newly learning, but it just made sense, on so many levels. And so I just wanted to pursue that further. And this time, much wiser and invest in the training and coaching that was needed to be successful.
I watched you start to transform. Not only, we'll talk more about the business side in a moment, but as a person. Christopher, what I call Christopher Unlimited, was born. And a new version of you, a new level of father and husband that it seems maybe you didn't even know existed, or you knew it existed, just wasn't sure how to reveal him. And I think that's something, as those of you listening to this, that you'll often see. My objective, yes, I love real estate, I love doing it, but the boxes on dirt, as you hear me say, doesn't excite me. It's the fact that I get to watch Christopher become Christopher Unlimited, or I get to watch somebody just get to a new level, a new gear. Maybe they didn't even know, existed. I remember driving my dad's, the truck I learned to drive on. It was a 1980 something model, stick shift, and it didn't have overdrive. And so once you got up to, a certain level there, it was revving. And then I remember I would get into one of our automatic cars and it would kick into overdrive, the old diesel Ford truck where you turn off overdrive or turn it on and you'd be revved up at 55 miles an hour. But once you turn on overdrive, like you could just purr along at 80 with no problem. And that's what I've seen with you, Christopher Unlimited. I watched overdrive kick on and a new level of confidence, but take me over the last few months now. What has started happening as you started ramping that up?
Sure. Just dispelled so many myths, so many inhibitions of my own about what the definition of success is. I stopped disqualifying myself or accepting, this notion that wealth wasn't for me, it was for someone else, that money isn't evil, and so once I started to just deal with a lot of these negative and counterproductive mindsets, I was able to move forward. I wasn't afraid to make a dial, and things just started to happen more organically and naturally. And I just, to your point, just allowed myself to be me, which, was the inspiration behind the whole Christopher Unlimited. That's how I, wanted to see myself, is just not having any of these limitations preventing me from realizing my full potential and, the dreams and goals and aspirations that I have for me and my family.
I want to hear something because you mentioned there money being evil. I used to struggle with wondering about those things. You mentioned that. You mentioned earlier about being a God-centered man, someone who loves God deeply, and I love that about you. And you lead your family in that way. You lead your kids, your wife, to be closer to God. And I've seen you live out that life, and I love that. How has your perspective shifted, even in recent months, but over the last several years, of understanding kingdom building and how that relates to the monetary value around us? Does that question make sense?
Sure. Well, how I understand it is, God has given me inherent talents, gifts, abilities that He wants me to be resourceful with, a steward over, here and now. And in doing so, I can be a blessing to not only, me and mine, but for others. And I think, that's that kingdom aspect of, having the resources, having, for one, dominion over, the earth, whether that be the real estate, the dirt under our feet, and what we can do with it. But to use that as a means to, be able to give, to bless other people and to bring them into a realization of just the love of God and abundance. That's what I know. The Lord has said that He wanted us to live life and life more abundantly. That's what He came to provide. And I know that wasn't just limited to, the life to come, but even on more than one occasion when He's giving people spiritual insights and things of that effect, He yet turned to His disciples and said, well, you give them something to eat. He was also mindful of the natural man. And so I've just been attempting to come to that understanding and, again, just manifest it in my personal life and whatever means that I have, whatever level of prosperity or wealth I achieve, to just be able to share it with other people with the intent of, bringing them into an understanding of the love of God and who Christ is.
Yeah.
I hope, did that answer your question?
Absolutely. I love that perspective. And whenever someone, everyone calling it different. And whenever I talk to someone who, some people's calling is from the stage, right? Pastor friends, my dad's a pastor. Other people's callings show up in the marketplace, and other people's callings show up in all sorts of ways, whether it's in being a father and fatherhood, husband, whether it's just being a good leader. And so I love hearing that perspective. A question I would have for you, going a little bit over to the family side, what's the philosophy that you lead your family by?
So there's a motto that I've originated and reinforced with my children. Thankful people have more to be thankful for. And so just learning to live life with gratitude, with thankfulness, again, just from the basis of, in all things give thanks, for this is the will of God concerning you. So I've learned, again, coming from a place of lack, that, you don't need much to enjoy life and to be appreciative of what you have and who you are. And so that when you do receive, more or plenty or prosperity, it doesn't change who you are, and you can still have a attitude of humility and thankfulness, and knowing who the source is, that God has blessed us with everything. And so just it's something simple, something that works. It's usually when they hear it when they're not, um, expressing thankfulness, whether to their mother for what she's doing for them, or to each other. But it helps to just keep us grounded, to know that thankful people have more to be thankful for. And yeah, that's just one of others that we live by as a philosophy.
Something, shifting gears a little bit, something I notice a lot of times, somebody comes into the world, the Truca community, in your case, March of last year, so several months ago. And a lot of people, I'll notice them, unless they're already running, 4, 5, or 6 deals a year, and we just pour fuel on the fire. But I notice a lot of people who are kind of getting the training wheels under them, and they come in, and the first 6 months, maybe do a deal or two, start getting some momentum, start learning the flow. The second 6 months, some more of that. And then a lot of time I watch in year 2, whether it's, Sean the first year done 2 deals, and then the first week of the second year done 2 contracts, or whether it's Alicia, I watch that momentum, that compounding effect starts to happen. Question for you in these first several months: what has been the biggest learning moments for you in deals you've been working on, deals that come together, deals that fell apart? What's a couple of those biggest lessons that you have realized?
To make data-driven decisions. I'm someone who can oftentimes not stick to that bearing of being data driven. I can kind of empathize a little too much with people in their situations, and try to make things happen that go beyond my ability. I learned that in a recent prospect, and so that's been something I'm learning from. Just against ensure that I'm not overextending myself with trying to make something happen that's not there in a deal. And I guess as well, I would say to continue to be persistent. That's one thing that I have going for me. If I haven't received it yet or arrived yet, I'm going to continue to go after it and pursue. So I've seen some positive outcome of that kind of trait when it comes to following up with leads, not allowing any setbacks to prevent me from, again, either getting that hard no, or ultimately getting the yes. And so I've seen that my persistence, my perseverance, is really very beneficial to my real estate success.
I think that's so true. Everyone has the ability to succeed. Just few stick around through enough failures to actually succeed. It's impossible to beat somebody who never gives up. And so there's either, the only way you fail is if you stop trying. And for you, that's something I don't think stop trying or failure is in your vocabulary. And I think that's everyone listening to this. You hit, sometimes I explain it this way, and I know you've been there, Christopher, where you feel like you've hit your head against a brick wall, right? It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? I'm just spinning my wheels. And you in that loop, and the sooner you can break out of that loop, the sooner you can ask, what is the change I can make right now that actually starts to move the needle forward? Sometimes that's a shift in location. Sometimes that's a shift in, for me, we're always part of masterminds, as I know you're a big believer in. We're always hanging out with people who are not willing to let us stay in our comfort zone, because at whatever level you are, there's another level to be reaching. And I think that's a powerful testament of those who just live that out. But what does that mean to you?
Well, I know the last mastermind you had, made the statement of surrounding yourself with what you I'm just going to read off the note. Who does your vision require? And that's what you need to be. You need to hire that or surround yourself with that and submit yourself to that. And so I'm attempting to realize that myself. I know it's a challenge of not being able to physically connect with individuals or, attend the nearest meetup in Louisville that I know is happening. And so just connecting with, my coach, for one, Chris, has been exceptional, as far as just being accessible and just keeping me in the loop, and then reaching out to whoever I can, and that's one of the things I do appreciate about, the Truca tribe, the, Freedom Life family, is that, people genuinely want to connect and support, and be personally involved in the other person's, success, at least from my experience. And so just attempting to expose myself to that, via a call or however, looking forward to the next mastermind. That's very vital and essential, to just immerse myself in an environment with like-minded people, with the same, values, integrity, dreams, to see their family, and the people that they're surrounded by, be impacted by the potential that's in having a successful real estate business.
Absolutely. I think, Christopher, the thing that's uncomfortable for a lot of people, at least probably an overstated thing, but everything you want is on the other side of the thing you fear the most. And often, at least for me, when I go to step into, a room that is a few levels up, when I go to step into an environment that's a few levels up, when I go to make a decision, an investment, and something that is a few levels up, there's always a twinge of excitement that is married with a little bit of what others would call fear. And it's been interesting to me because I've noticed a pattern, and I'm sure you can relate to this, but I've noticed a pattern over the years. There's a difference between, you ever had that gut feeling like that something wasn't right and you just need to shift gears, right? With God right. tugging us in a different way, right? You felt that before. But then there's that very different feeling. And it's the feeling I get that most people think is fear. I used to think it was fear. And it's that almost overwhelm the moment I make a decision that is transforming. And I remember two very pivotal points in my life where I felt it, and one more recently, but without going there. I remember in 2014 going to surround myself by a bunch of real estate investors, and I made some very uncomfortable decisions, and I was terrified, except I was excited. And I remember in 2020, right before I started, Leo and I launched this community together, I remember waking up in the middle of the night one night, and I just felt this overwhelm of almost gratitude, but excitement, but fear, but being terrified. It was a whole mixture of emotions.
Sure.
Every time that happens, there's a quantum leap on the other side. And I think there's so many people, they start to feel that and they pull back. There's so many people who, the moment they start to feel that, they pull back. And so they've never experienced the quantum leap on the other side. And I just want to say kudos to you, for your wife, for your kids, for future generations, that you are the type of person who says, I'm going to make the leap, even though things don't happen as fast as I want or go like I want. Had the bad experience years ago with the real estate investing. And I often explain real estate as, we was in, Leo and I, as you probably know, we was just in Japan, my girlfriend and his girlfriend, we all four went. And we was in Japan, we hopped the bullet train. And the bullet train goes, I think they say 100 and something miles an hour. It's incredible. And we're standing there getting ready to board the train. I've rode the bullet train before. It's always a nice, you hop on, you ride. We often go from Tokyo down to Osaka or Kyoto. And I'm hopping the bullet train. I've rode it before, and I watch it fly up to the train station, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm glad I wasn't on those tracks. Like, I would have been dead, man. And immediately I started thinking of that's how real estate is, because you've seen people in '08, and they got in front of the bullet train. They overborrowed on properties. They overleveraged. They rented them. They mismanaged. All sorts of things went wrong, whatever your opinion of that was, except they got on the train track in front of the bullet train somehow. And then you see people who have built wealth, generational wealth, and they was in the train. And I think as we understand more, I talk about our relationship with money, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationship with God, because the better we can steward the resources we've been lent, really, God has lent us, the better we can steward us, our emotions, our thought process, and the better we can understand we're King's kid, made in his image, meant for more, our whole world starts to shift. And that's something, Christopher, that I love about you. You just shine that light everywhere you go. But I want to hear from you. What has been one of the most uncomfortable decisions you've made in the last 90 days? And how has it affected you, good or bad?
Uncomfortable. Yeah. Most uncomfortable decision in the last 90 days. Well, I think I'm in the process of that decision right now, of investing in myself, so currently not where I want to be in, my real estate journey, and growing and scaling my business. And so it's either, stop right now and, count my losses and, just chalk it up as, hey, that was a good experience, but, it just didn't happen, or press on the gas a little harder, and that, is going to require, making some financial decisions to ensure that I have, the ability to move forward in, some investment opportunities and just business operations and things. But I know that that's what needs to happen, and it's the right thing. And so I'm going to do it, and again, we've talked about in times past, listening to you, listening to Leo talk about, the whole scarcity mindset and, all that. And it's like, no, I'm leaving this behind, because I want that quantum leap, as you mentioned, that's on the other side, because I feel it drawing me, pulling me. And it's just like, how much are you going to, just how much are you going to invest? How much skin in the game are you going to put into seeing the life that you want to see for yourself and for your children, and the generations to come? And so that's what I'm in the process of doing now. And yeah, it's unnerving, but it's necessary. And so I'll see you on the other side of this quantum leap here soon.
That's what I'm talking about. And something, it's, you hear people or you see people who have succeeded, and the parts that, and I talk about this some because my prayer is it inspires others, but the parts that gets missed is the parts I often try to reminisce on for anybody listening is the times where I did wake up at 3 a.m. going, holy crap, was that the right decision? The times I did get the late night trying to go to sleep in my mind going, crap, what if it doesn't work out? And the moment, the Bible talks about that, take every thought captive. My dad used to always say, imagination is the biggest nation in the world. And if you're not careful, it'll run away with you. And 90% of the things we worry about never happen, and the 10% that were going to happen anyway, why did we waste our effort worrying? And something I've found when we have these quantum leaps, and I remember a quantum leap back in 2020, and it was the most terrifying time of my life. But the moment you say, as you hear me say, Christopher, you say yes now and you figure out how.
Right.
And oh my gosh, the thought processes of, man, this is the deal. You know, I don't know about you. Some of you listening to this, maybe you're the ones who it feels like everything you touch turns to gold. And if so, God bless you. But I never was that way. For whatever reason, it felt like people around me were always surpassing, and I was having to take 3 steps to their 1. Maybe it's because I'm short, but I always felt that. And I thought either A, I can pause, I can wait, I can complain and can give up, or B, I'm just going to take these steps. And what I found out was the people who appeared like everything they was touching turned to gold, once I got to know them, they also had a lot of crap they was dealing with. Nothing goes as easy as planned. If legacy wealth was easy to build, if changing the trajectory of your family's future was an easy thing to do, it wouldn't be as awesome as it is. But as men and as leaders, the fact we get to go through and forge that path, do what maybe we didn't know and what we had to learn the hard way, and now we get to forge a new path for our future. In your case, your kiddos and your family around you. And for those of you watching this, if you're brand new to real estate or you've been on it a while, like, I cannot overstate the level of crap that happened in that first 3 years of real estate investing for me. And there's 2 major pieces of advice, Christopher. If you and I were just on the phone right now and nobody was watching, this is what I would tell you. Number 1, don't hesitate to ask more for help. There is, in your case, there's 24 people around you who I guarantee you have been through the exact same thing in the last couple years. Always reach out to those around you. You're never alone. Business sucks alone. Life sucks alone. That's why Truca exists. And the second thing is, and for all of you, and I don't know why I feel like sharing this with you, Christopher, but never relitigate your decision. I'll give you an example. I remember a property I bought years ago, and I remember after purchasing it, I'm like, oh crap, was that the right decision? What if it doesn't turn out like I hope it does? What if this goes? And I would relitigate that, and I spent months of time relitigating if I made the right purchase or not. The purchase was already done. Just go make some money already. Quit worrying about it. And so for anybody listening to this, the moment, you make the decision, even if the decision's wrong, I don't care. Make the decision and own that decision. There'll be another one right behind it. And oh my gosh, what a gift as a man of wealth, a man who's building, a man who's leading for your community, to just be able to say, you know what, I'm making decisions. I'm making them in alignment with my values, with God, and for the best of my family. And the moment I make the decision, I'm not going to relitigate it. I'm going to own it. And that's the path we're marching on. And I just want to give you that recommendation, brother.
Right. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're in the right place. I thank you for this feedback. Is there any words of wisdom or inspiration you want to share with our listeners before I ask you my final question?
Well, I tell you what, I'm still letting sink in what you shared. So I'll wait for another opportunity or the next podcast to share any wisdom of my own.
Heck yeah. There'll be a version 2, and I'm excited for what that's going to look like. How do people reach out to you?
How do they reach out to me?
Social media, Facebook, Instagram?
Well, I'm still working on my branding. That's a work in progress, but more than welcome to reach me via email. I know that may seem archaic in this time, but Christopher at realflowhomesllc.com, and just more than willing to connect with other real estate investors, Truca or otherwise, so we can build and grow together.
Heck yeah. Keep the momentum going, brother. And for all of you listening, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.